Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles. I'm going to talk about BlueSky being called Blue SCOLD by the left. Now, we did a video the other day talking about BlueSky's numbers, but it's interesting to see how even some people that I would consider pretty far left are kind of giving up on the site. They said that you can't post anything without pushback. You're constantly being lectured to, and there is no sense of humor. There's no nuance over at BlueSky. Now, for some people, it might be paradise, right? But, you're going to attract a certain audience. And, if you post over there, especially about political things, which is seemingly all anybody posts over there anymore, and if you deviate from whatever the narrative is that week, you're going to get pushback, right? And it doesn't sound like a very fun place to be. Now, I've said before that, I was invited to BlueSky early on. I got one of those coveted invites, and I did go over, and it seemed pretty empty at the time. This is before the election. But I will say, to BlueSky's credit, that I do like the ability to curate your feed better. I do like the idea of being able to have your own personal Twitter-adjacent social media app that you actually could host. It's decentralized, supposedly, that you could host your own version of BlueSky or run the BlueSky framework and do your own thing someplace else on your own website or whatever. I do like that about it. But BlueSky, the app itself, is hot trash. And there are a lot of people over there. They're only there looking for fights, looking to lecture people. Again, just like Twitter 2017, the worst of Twitter 2017 all in one place. We're going to talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, hey, if you want more news, go to news.clownfishtv.com. We're going to be ramping things up over there. I've decided to put we had like various support systems kind of all over the internet. We're using Fourth Wall for a while. I think they are a great shopping alternative, but I'm not really sold on their membership. It's hard to use. And it's hard to post content over there. So I think we're just going to continue with Substack. So if you go to news.clownfishtv.com, we're just going to kind of put everything over there. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about this article from Slate. We're going to talk about writer John Scalzi, who was the head of, what was he the head of? Let's see here. He was the head of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America. Now, he's one of these guys, and we'll talk more about him later, that I'm familiar with him. I've heard of him. I've seen him around Twitter. He gets invoked in conversations, but I'm not familiar with his work at all. It's like there's not like one thing he's done where I'm like, wow, this is the guy who wrote that book, which is like a huge bestseller. I'm gonna have to look through his credits, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not really familiar with anything he's done. But he was in charge of that guild, I guess. And he's even saying, hey, BlueSky is just full of a bunch of scolds. A bunch of, he seems to spend a lot of time over there, right? Maybe he's in his element, but it doesn't sound like it's something for me. Anyway, let's go out and look at this article first. I think we kind of touched on it in the other video, but it's pretty bad when Slate is calling you out. Slate is calling it Blue SCOLD. It's time to admit that the most promising refuge from X is in a frustrating downward spiral. We talked a little bit about some of this stuff. They're saying it's gone full MAGA. They were like, you have to pay for it, et cetera, et cetera. They said, oh my God. Okay. Today, X exclusively surfaces the most upsetting content conceivable in our timelines. Its gouging monetization program encourages incessant spam from brain dead engagement farmers. Its doofus AI model lectures the public about imaginary white genocide. Its emboldened Nazi community edits together Dayglow fan cams. If you're not paying $8 a month for premium, nobody else on the site can see your posts. True and not true, but yeah, it's pay to play. And look, we said before, like BlueSky, if they're going to survive, they're going to have to go pay to play. Maybe not the same way that X has, but they're going to have to come up with a way to monetize the site, because you got to have money. Once the venture capital runs out, you got to have money. You got to be self-sustaining. They said that it's not to say that X isn't a very nice place to hang out on the internet anymore. It was inevitable that the liberal mainstream exiled into the wilderness Well, they did it to themselves. They rage quit. They would try to regroup with a version of the Twitter they knew and loved. Done correctly, this place could overcome Musk's terrible vision in a far more hygienic environment. And if nurtured properly, could be the opening of a new front in the culture war. Something to rival the vice grip Republican-aligned media has on digital airwaves. No, see, I disagree with that. Everything has been blue for a very long time. All of the media has been blue for a very long time. The only place I think that Republicans or right-leaning people have any ground would be podcasts, the podcast space. And that was because everything else was unavailable. You weren't allowed to have conservative opinions on mainstream media. You weren't allowed to have conservative opinions on any of these, publications, Huffington Post and the Slates and the Vices and the Voxes. You weren't allowed to have it. You weren't allowed to do it on YouTube for a while because they would dampen your channel or ban you completely. So they all went to podcasts, and it just so happened that a lot of them went to podcasts, and they boosted, people like Joe Rogan. And Rogan even wasn't a Republican, right? Rogan was just kind of a disenchanted liberal, but his podcast wound up becoming very popular with Republicans because he had a lot of conservative guests on that maybe weren't welcome on other platforms or whatever, but it wasn't really offset with liberal guests because a lot of them avoided his channel like the plague. They didn't want the pushback. They didn't want to, deal with him because, he's a pretty smart guy. I mean, some people are like, hey, he's a meathead, but, we've had some guests on there that and both left and right, that made themselves look very, very dumb going on a show. Of course, it helps when you have a fact checker there. You can just pipe you facts into your ear. And that makes you look smarter too. But anyway, they said, unfortunately, the social media service liberals came up with was even worse. BlueSky was worse. The name evokes a spiritual purification, a much-needed reset of cultural norms after Armageddon. What? Naturally, BlueSky was founded by Jack Dorsey, the man who was the CEO of Twitter, and he imbued his new project with the same texture as his mother's site. Yeah, it's basically just copy-paste early Twitter, right? The design is deliberately minimalist. The way it gestures toward the original dream of social media, global salon adjusted to our tightly held proclivities in which we aren't constantly confronted with conflict. God, this is so wordy. Do you get paid by the word at Slate? Look at this paragraph. It's just like a text gob in which we aren't constantly confronted with conflict, anxiety, and catastrophe. Well, the left did a damn good job of that too. See also the pandemic. The pandemic and the summer of love in 2020, a lot of doom and gloom, and that chased off a lot of people. Actually, I would say pushing it too far during the pandemic is kind of what pushed Elon Musk into buying the place. Yeah, we got to do something, right? We got to do something. Anyway, they said BlueSky has proved anything. It's that peace can no longer exist on the internet. There's no way to go back to a time before social media norms, no way to preclude how we have all learned to interact online. The platform, maybe any platform, is incapable of transporting its users to the blissful dawn of Twitter. The best BlueSky can replicate is a hellish, inescapable, never-ending version of 2016. Thank you. That's exactly what it is. And some people love it. Some people are getting off on it. They want conflict. They want strife. They want to chastise you for every infraction, every wrong thing. They said, I don't want to be unfair to the many people horrified about the second Trump administration. There are lots of indignities to be angry about, and more of them mount every day. That said, I would hope that one of the major lessons rank and file liberals internalized after two defeats at the hands of Republicans is there is a certain school of internet posting that is perceived by a growing majority to be laughably ineffective in stemming the globe's authoritarian drift, and worse than that, extremely annoying. Yeah, I said before that liberals have done a damn good job pushing people into the arms of the right. I'm not talking normal liberals. I'm talking Tumblr liberals, like these wackadoos that popped up in the early to mid 2010s And everything was offensive. Everything was a microaggression. Everything was racist. Everything was homophobic. That's what I'm talking about. People that were normal, middle of the road, Clinton voters or Obama voters or whatever, they got pushed right because the people that I believe hijacked the party. And you're talking to a guy who was a Democrat for decades. They hijacked the party and they pushed the normies out. Right. I mean, it's like, where else are you going to go? And some of them, I know for a fact, some of them cast a vote for Trump just as a big FU. Like, here's your wake up call. Give us somebody normal we can vote for. We're just going to vote for Trump. Give us somebody that actually seems to have the best interests of the country in mind, or we're going to vote for Trump. Give us somebody who can form a complete sentence, or we're going to vote for Trump. And that's what happened. It was I believe in a lot of ways a symbolic, like, well, this is the best you can do. And they said that they're still doing Trump Putin memes over there, right? Given the platform's ostensible opposition to X's thriving far right, it isn't shocking or even a problem, but BlueSky has taken on outwardly liberal character. The issue, rather, is that the people who have orbited to the top of the algorithm are the exact same group of clout-hungry resistance characters who first made a name for themselves on Twitter during those confused early years of the MAGA insurgency. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's a time capsule. You go over there, and it's the absolute worst people that were posting on Twitter and causing problems in 2016 and 2017. They're over on BlueSky now. I said there's a total absence of contrasting voices on BlueSky. Yeah, because they're afraid. They're afraid to post on BlueSky. You see what happened. You saw what happened. You saw what happened on Twitter. If you raised any doubts about, like, hey, yeah, do we really need to lock down as much as we are? Did we really need to wear masks outside? Do we really know what these vaccines are going to do long term? Yeah, you'd be chased off the platform. And all those people are on BlueSky. No normal person would want to post over there and risk getting doxxed, harassed, whatever. I mean, hell, even people that are pretty far left, like Mark Hamill and Rob Reiner, are getting harassed on BlueSky. That's pretty freaking wild, right? I mean, those guys were like definitely the anti-MAGA cheerleaders over on Twitter, and they're not far left enough for BlueSky. They said it's not BlueSky's fault. Well, the company itself got attacked. I remember they put that meme up about grandma going to bed or whatever, and they got attacked because there's no joy on BlueSky. It's just constant anger. It's they're all exiled to BlueSky, but they did it to themselves. Everybody rage quit Twitter, went to BlueSky. And because you rage quit Twitter, your political adversaries basically took over X. And there's no walking it back at this point. Like, you're not going to be able to come back after being gone for 6 or 8 months and set up shop like you used to and have this, because everybody left. The people that were part of your echo chamber, they all left. Yeah, I feel this. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with everything that they're saying, but I actually feel this. They said at the end of the day, a platform's a receptacle for posts. It's up to us what we do with it. In 2025, the only way anyone knows how to interface with social media is to try and leverage it for fame. The version of the internet I love, the one where we could talk about sandwiches, is irretrievable. Yes, early Twitter was fine. I had no problem with early Twitter. I actually thought it was pretty fun. You post cat videos, you post your food, you talk to your friends, you talk, in my case, talk about comic books or animation or whatever it was. And it was okay. And then it just became weirdly political. It's awful. They're talking about Democrats not being cool. How can they shed their hall monitor reputation? Does the party have the means to ferment a counterculture that is agile, tech savvy, and fashionable? Most of the tech savvy people have always been libertarian or libertarian leaning. And libertarians used to be considered more left leaning. And now libertarianism, for some reason, is considered right-leaning, probably by the left, because, we got to have rules. We got rules in place, and we got to have government handouts and all that stuff. They said, yeah, BlueSky has crystallized the Democrats as they're currently perceived, and no one wants to hang out with them. That is, talk about saving the point of the article for the very end. But that's 100% true. Nobody wants to hang out with the Democrats now. Nobody wants to admit to being a Democrat because they're like, oh my God, the microaggressions. I mean, I feel bad for minorities in the Democratic Party at this point, because people are going to look at you and they're going to be like, oh, you're like one of these people that want, all this whatever, DEI in the workplace, and you're going to complain about your pronoun usage, and you're going to, even if it's not true. Oh, you only got your job because you're not a white dude, even if it's not true. That's the perception of the Democrats. So this is coming from Fandom Pulse. I'll get this in here. John Scalzi, who, again, I'm not real familiar with everything he does, but he's even admitting, if you go all the way to the bottom here, on BlueSky, he was talking about these articles being written about how lame BlueSky is. He said, those article writers moaning about the lefties being humorless scolds here on BlueSky are carefully alighting their memories of the lefties being humorless scolds on Twitter too. Look, some lefties are just humorless scolds, just like so many righties are just effing fascist shit bunglers. Is that a word? Shit bungler. I mean, if the choice is between exhaustingly hectoring lefties being mean kids and bootlicking righties who will happily rat out their neighbors to masked thugs for not being potential cover models for Aryans, what the hell? Does this guy sell books? I mean, does he sell books? Does he sell books to normal people? I have a pretty good idea about who I'd rather be loitering with online. Or, look, he's reluctantly admitting it, right? And that's the thing, too. Again, you're seeing Mark Hamill get harassed. I don't know if George Takei has been harassed or not, but it's like, or you could do what I think a lot of normies are doing, and they're not hanging out on X or BlueSky, right? This is a guy who was like singing the praises of BlueSky. Now, here's the thing. I don't think you're going to sell anything on BlueSky or X. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm going to wrap this video up here pretty quick, but it's been my experience that X does not lead to X or Twitter and or BlueSky does not lead to any meaningful traffic or meaningful sales of anything. Like, those platforms just seem to be a place to just let out some steam. I was gonna say let out some hot air from both ends. They don't really translate into traffic. And even during its height, like Twitter, we ran websites for years, had multiple websites, and all those websites had Twitter accounts, and we would auto post or whatever articles. And some of our sites were getting millions of views a month, and hardly any of it was coming from Twitter. So it's like, I mean, I guess if you want to spend all your time on Twitter bitching about stuff, or all your time on BlueSky bitching about stuff, that's fine. But I would think that a lot of people are like, you know what, this is a complete waste of time. I'm better off going to like a Substack, or doing YouTube videos, or whatever, doing a podcast, literally doing anything else besides hanging out on these sites, because they're designed to suck you into engagement. And it's going to be 9 times out of 10, it's going to be negative engagement, right? I mean, the days of, again, like they were saying, talking about sandwiches and your cats, and those are over. It's both of these sites, both of them, Twitter and BlueSky, are just time wasters. And I mean, you can meet some good people on here, whatever, but like, I think a lot of people are just moving on from that kind of internet. I think they want the old internet back. I want the old internet back. I mean, I can't remember a time when everything wasn't just completely, political. And I spent years on message boards and stuff like that. Politics never came up. And now it's inconceivable to even post anything without wondering, in the back of your mind, like, how is this going to be taken? Am I making it too political? You know what I'm saying? It's very weird. We've made everything very weird. And I don't know if there is any coming back from it, unfortunately. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. There you go. BlueSky getting attacked by its own side. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later. For more pop culture news, views, and rants, go to news.clownfishtv.com. That's news.clownfishtv.com.